Hello, and welcome to the lecture on chapters 9 and 10. During our last lecture, we ended with a slide that said, above all, you need to think about it. Think about the decisions you make regarding your topic, your audience. Today, we're going to talk about thinking about how you deliver a speech. It's not enough just to say words, it's not enough just to do good research, put it on your note cards, and then read those note cards. You really should think of your speech as a little bit of a performance. Now, this isn't musical theater or this isn't reader's theater in any way, shape, or form, but the way in which you communicate influences how the audience feels and interprets your message. So there are some stylistic things that you need to consider. So chapter 9 does a really good job of kind of giving you a synthesis of what some of these are. The type of language that you use is really, really important. You might use simple language, and in some speeches, this is an excellent angle to take. Um, Always attempt to use concrete language. So instead of saying something like phone, say cell phone or car phone, which doesn't even exist anymore. If you're talking about tablet technology, keep in mind there are different ways that tablets are used. You might talk about an iPad, you might talk about an Android tablet. That might twing something in your audience. The more concrete language you use, the more likely you are to get your specific point across or your thesis across. Always use clear language. And really, that involves taking into account who your audience is. I love on page 74 uh, of the text, the author notes that even in different regions of the United States, things have different meaning. So I'm in the Midwest right now. I told you I live in Kansas City. However, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I'm very much an East Coast guy, so everything I do probably communicates from an East Coast type of thinking. So I say soda, right? If I go to a restaurant and I want a Diet Coke, I say soda. And then I move to the Midwest and people say pop. And oh my gosh, it drives me absolutely nuts. But that's something I got to consider. I am now communicating to people from a different people group than I'm used to. And that matters. And in order to respect them as an audience and show them that I care about them so that they'll care about what I have to say, I need to take that into account. Always use appropriate language. I'm a college instructor, and one of the big things I really like about being an instructor with college students is I get to say almost anything that I want because you all are young and you're hip and you're trendy, and there's really nothing I can say that will offend you because you're exposed to so many things that I would never say. So I have a lot of freedom with what I can say. I might be able to get away with a four-letter word once in a while, which I don't normally say, but you know what I'm saying. I can get away with maybe a little bit of an edgier joke or an edgier example because that's appropriate, right? You all are not focused on that. But if I'm talking about, I don't know, body image, the type of pictures I would show to you all, while they would be good and would be applicable, might be different than the type of images I would show to, I don't know, a nursing home audience, right? If I was going to present my research at some adult living facility, which I don't know why I would ever do that. But you see what I'm saying here? There are just things you have to take into account. The appropriateness of language, of visual aids, of topics. Always consider how concise you can make your language. Don't use 6 sentences if you can say it in one or two. Always shrink your speech down, so to speak. And then use vivid language. I think I used an example before when we talked about gay marriage, where you can really just present statistics and examples, and that's fine, right? All that matters. But if you can really make the topic come alive to somebody, that's when it really hits home with them. So using vivid language involves using examples, real life examples. It involves using things like metaphors and similes, like dark as night or bright as a new penny, clear as mud, uh, light as a feather. Those things can really kind of awaken your audience's attention. But above all, just think about the stylistic and performance qualities of your speech. Like I said, I study body image and gender, and I talk a lot about my own weight loss and the corresponding body image that goes along with my masculinity. And so I tell a lot of personal stories, and I'll give an example. Like, I remember walking into the gym, and I walk right past the people at the front desk, or walk right back to the place where every fat kid hates, the locker room. And why did I hate the locker room? Well, because as a guy, you know that you're not really supposed to look at other guys in the locker room, but my fat body knew otherwise. When I walked in there, I knew I was being looked at. People judged me. People thought, why is he so big and yet he's still here? People did the same thing as I walked out of that locker room and marched my big old 365-pound up the Stairmaster. I could hear their thoughts. Why is he doing this? Well, go him. He needs it. He is big. This is good for him. I don't know if those thoughts ever actually happened, but in my head, they did. Okay, so again, off the top of my head, you should plan more than that, of course. But you see what I did there? I kind of invited you along with me on a journey. Hopefully you could visualize what that looked like in your head, maybe some of the feelings that I was feeling. I would use that, and the whole speech is not about my personal story, but then I could then move on and say, my story is just one story. But there are millions of people in the United States who are currently overweight and are dealing with weight discrimination. And there you go. You move into your topic. Think about the performance qualities, and no matter what you do, be deliberate. Your speeches should not demonstrate to me that you haven't really thought about it. They should show me that you've thought about the language that you want to use, and you're using that strategically because it helps you carry out the purpose of your speech. So we title the type of delivery that I just did extemporaneous delivery. So extemporaneous means that basically you choose a topic, you structure your thesis, you get your main points, you do your research, you prepare an introduction, you practice, but you're not giving a memorized speech. Yeah, you have the skeletal outline, but you're kind of talking with and between those points. You're interacting with the speech itself. That outline, while it's there to jog your memory, is subject to going in a different direction, depending on the way that the speech is heading. Now, on the flip side, you might use something called manuscript delivery. You will not do that for this class, because anybody can do that. A manuscript delivery is putting words on a manuscript or a piece of paper and reading them out loud. There are some times when this is appropriate. Our President of the United States gives speeches in manuscript format, manuscript delivery, often reading from a teleprompter. That's okay in that situation. If you were giving a eulogy at a funeral, maybe, it might be really appropriate to have a manuscript, because if you were giving an extemporaneous one, your emotions might go everywhere. So having a manuscript in front of you is okay. I don't want you to think that it's a bad thing, but for this class, it's not what we're shooting for. Because when you're bound to a manuscript, you don't have as much opportunity to perform the speech. When it's extemporaneous, you've got the skeletal outline, and you can kind of think about the content and also kind of think about how that content is coming across. You can focus on things like vocalics, which are vocal characteristics of a speech, such as volume. Saying something quietly and then getting really loud can do something to your audience. You know, if I was giving my story about weight loss, I probably wouldn't shout it out, because that's not what I really want to do, right? But if I have a little bit more of a quiet tone and I say, you know, I remember walking into the gym and I walked right back to that locker room and, you know, I felt so inferior, right? I mean, a little bit more serious, a little bit quieter voice. But when I get really passionate about something, like, and this is why there are millions of people in the United States who are overweight and also depressed, because we have created a culture where overweight people are not accepted when they're overweight, and they're not accepted when they're trying to lose weight either. So what do? Okay, so again, not a perfect example, but you see how the volume that I use influences things. Things such as pitch. Now, I'm a guy, but I have an uncharacteristically high voice. I know it. You've watched these videos, so you know it. I don't even try to hide it, because I don't even care. But sometimes when I'm getting passionate, my voice goes even higher, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should just sing soprano right now. But if I'm in a meeting, and it's a serious meeting, I'll strategically try to lower my voice, because I believe that a lower voice connotes calmness. I don't care if people perceive me as masculine or feminine. That doesn't, you can call me a boy, you can call me a girl, you can call me a unicorn, for all I care. But I do think that the lower voice connotes a certain type of calmness or authority, right? So I might try to do that. You might do the same thing in your speech, you might not. Rate. Rate refers to how fast or slow you say something. I am really bad, and I know it, and you probably know it too, that I can talk really, really fast. I'm constantly telling myself to slow down. In your speech, make sure that you slow down. We want to hear what you have to say. We don't want to just hear you rushing through the content, because everybody can do that. Everybody can speak a mile a minute, and you can get the point across, and you can shut your video down, and all is well. But when you actually take a second, pause, breathe, get your content across. In my story, I would say, remember walking into the gym, and I walked right past the front desk assistants, and they smiled at me as I walked by, and then I walked all the way back to that place that every fat kid hates, the male locker room, right? That's a lot different than if I would say, I remember walking to the gym and I walked past the desk assistants and they smiled as I walked by, but you know what? They were friendly, but when I walked back to the locker room, oh gosh, every fat kid hates a locker room because, right? It just has a whole different feel and is going to rest with your audience in a different way. Above all, make sure you project and you use a loud enough volume, whether you're using quietness to kind of get your point across or not. Make sure it's loud enough. In addition to those verbal characteristics, you need to think about some nonverbal strategies. Eye contact is huge, and this is where it gets difficult to take a speech class online because it's easy for you to get lost. I need you to look directly at your webcam. When we're doing online speeches, sometimes we are drawn to look at ourselves on the computer screen, but when you do that, you're not actually looking where you need to look. Look directly into your webcam so that I can see your eyes looking at me. This is how we create the guise of authenticity in online speaking. Your eye contact shows your audience that they matter to you. There are other things as well, like your facial expressions. Don't just have a stone cold blank stare. Let your eyes do some talking for you. Let the corners of your mouth do some talking for you. Let your nose do some talking for you. Whatever works. Everybody's face is different, so their facial gestures are different too. Make sure you really consider your appearance. If you ever give a speech in your pajamas, I will dock you. Because professionalism is a key part of giving a good speech. I'm not asking you to pull out your tuxedo or your prom dress, but I am asking you to show some thought in how you appear, how you stand, the posture that you use, and be deliberate in your gestures and your movement as well. Don't throw your hands 1,000 different directions, but use your hands because those can help you get your point across. Move. Don't just sit still. I told you I want you to video from your waist up. So have enough webcam space where you can move from side to side if you need to. Lift your hands. I know the video is not going to capture everything. The video does not have to be perfect. This is not a broadcasting class, but I want you to think about those nonverbals. That's the key theme that has run through the last several weeks in this course and is going to keep running through this course, is to think about it. Be deliberate. Think about not only the content, the research, think about how you deliver that content, how you deliver that research, because those things matter, and some might argue that they matter even more. So if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'm happy to give you feedback, to give you ideas, to give you some of my thoughts. But until next time, I hope you have a fantastic week.